All right, so skill trees quickly. Techter is very standard, so just see on the screen of what I'm doing. The only call out I'll make is that, yes, I have removed Megid Blot. Don't really need it, and the content right now is ice, so Bard is fine by itself. But for the Slayer skill tree, pretty much I'm putting all skill points into things that are not main class. The ones I do want to call out is going to be Gunblade Focus Amplify and of course Gunblade PP Reset, because they do have benefits as a subclass. Because you're only going to be using Gunblade for certain abilities, you can build that focus, it will reset, and you'll get some PP back. Other than that, it's pretty standard. All right, we're gonna start off with Shift and Spica weapon action cancels. So now what is this? For those who may have noticed if you've been playing with Gunblade, Shift and Spica is one of the PAs, which is a gap closer. One of the issues when you're going wand Gunblade is that if you let the full animation go, that final gunshot pushes you back, and that can be very difficult to do things like encore jump combos. And so one of the techniques you can do is the weapon action cancel for Gunblade. What this will do is this will cancel the animation at any time, so that I can close distance and do things like encore jump, swift smash. This is a gap close that you can use, but I personally will probably not be using this. We'll get into what I will be using shortly, because it has a couple of issues. One, it costs PP, and when you're doing a lot of encore jumps, you're using a lot of PP, and so even though you are getting utility from the gap close, it can put you in interesting spots. The other thing, which is problematic, is its hit detection. Not only does Shift and Spica have very low range compared to other gap closes, so you have to get fairly close before you can actually stick onto the target. It does also have issues to where if it hits anything before you actually make it to that targeted area, or let's say that targeted area shifted, so let's say it's leaning forward and then leans back, if it hits during the lean forward, that's where it's going to stop. And then you're gonna have to use it again, which is more PP. And the problem with that becomes, well, now you're using a lot of PP, you're not getting a lot of damage out of it, and it's kind of counterproductive. So let's get into what I am using for my gap close, because it's A, PP efficient, and has a lot more capabilities and benefits that you might not realize. The Gunblade attack that I will be using for my gap close is Charge Blade. It's technically two abilities in one. It's your charge normal attacks, and then also the weapon action follow-up, which is Charge Blade. The great thing about charge normals is that they're normal attacks, and so they're PP efficient. In addition, if you use charge normal attacks as a precast, it does great DPS. This is essentially the sword overcharge if you're in situations where you're too far away to use Swift Smash, or you want to be PP conscientious. The follow-up, Charge Blade, is great because it's a gap close, but in addition, it also has counter properties. So depending on your timing, you can either get Blade counter, or you can get a Charge Blade counter, to where you will still do the gap close in addition to doing your counter attack. The other thing to be mindful of your charge normals is that in the air, they hold you. And so if the enemy vanishes, if they move away, you're not gonna have to worry about losing altitude. So it's great chase, it's great damage in situations where you don't have many options. And then once again, it'll let you have that PP for encore jumps, not putting yourself in bad situations. A real quick call out. When I use Element Revoke, you might notice that I'm using Gunblade weapon action cancel instead of my wand weapon action. The reason for that is it covers the same distance, it does damage, and it also gives a little PP. Now, we covered blade counter in the previous video, but I want to call attention to more of the intricacies of blade counter, when to use it and when not to use it. In the last video, you noticed that I tried to do a Gunblade step dodge weapon action counter into a wand parry, or a wand weapon action counter. The timing is tight just because you cannot cancel or animation cancel Gunblade attacks with wand. You can cancel Gunblade attacks with Gunblade. And so that allows me to do step dodge weapon action into blade counter. Blade counter is a great move, and if you've looked at the frame data, it's got great damage and even greater DPS. The key to blade counter is that you have to let the entire animation play out. If you don't get all the damage, you don't get all the DPS. When you're getting into counter sequences, the thing you want to remember is that blade counter always comes last. So if you're countering 4 attacks before the enemy pauses and resets, that 4th attack can be blade counter. If you do it any earlier, that animation is probably going to force you to miss out on a counter opportunity. So as you'll see in these clips, I'll do wand parry counter into blade counter, giving me enough time to use both techniques to get maximum damage. And of course, let's end the video with a demonstration of all the things that we discussed.